Ken Plume, and you're listening to A Bit of a Chat with me, Ken Plume. Hey everybody, Ken Plume here with a brand new episode of A Bit of a Chat, and my guest for this episode is Yvonne Innes, and we talk about her book, Dip My Brain in Joy, Life with Neil Innes, the official biography, which released last year. And we had this conversation not long after that, and as you can tell by the release of this episode, it's been a while to actually release this. This has been a bit of an emotional journey, as Neil was a very good friend, and I miss him deeply. So it's been one of those things that it's been difficult to have to revisit this wonderful conversation with Yvonne about Neil, their life together, Yvonne's amazing career as a garden designer. We just had a wonderful conversation, but, it seemed like it was time to finally get this out there, get this released so you could listen to this conversation. And this is being released on Neil's birthday on December 9th. You should really go pick up the book. It is a wonderful portrait of not only Neil, but also Yvonne and their life together. And I hope you enjoy this conversation, and you have to forgive me for being a bit discombobulated through it. As I said, I still feel the loss of Neil and what an amazing, wonderful, joyful presence he was in the world, and through his work, through his family, through his legacy, continues to be. And so, through things like this book and his music and us talking about all of those things, hopefully he will not soon be forgotten. Please enjoy this episode of A Bit of a Chat with Yvonne Innes. Yvonne, it is a delight to finally have a chance to speak with you directly after all of these years. And to have this conversation. We certainly have talked a lot more directly in the past couple of years after Neil's passing. But prior to that, it would always be Neil going, Yvonne's in the room while we're having this conversation and we're all brainstorming these weird, wacky promotional ideas. And and ways to crisis solve an attempt to make things work when it seemed like odds were stacked against us. So this is a delight to have you on for all the both wrong and right reasons.
Yes, I know what you mean exactly.
So the one thing, the book is wonderful for everyone listening. Dip My Brain in Joy, A Life with Neil Innes, Yvonne's incredible, moving, heartfelt, and human. It was like the best aspects of what Neil was like as a friend you've brought out in talking about him, in that it's a casual read. Like you feel like, oh, this is just you sitting down, you're having some wine and you're having a conversation about Neil. Yeah.
That's right. And I think quite a few people have said that it brought Neil closer to them, and they felt they knew Neil better at the end of the book, which was really what it was written for.
Was there reticence on your part when it was presented to do with the book?
No, not at all. I felt after Neil died, I mean, obviously the first 2 years was total shock still, but then after he died, I felt he can't just disappear like that. It's a horrid thing on a cold French hillside with nobody around, just a group of friends around. And from all over the world, people have been getting in touch and saying they couldn't have any kind of closure because he just died somewhere. They don't know. They can't even think where it was. They can't pinpoint it. And a lot of musicians also, is why the concert happened, was because a lot of musicians said that they couldn't bear the fact that he'd just gone and they couldn't say anything. And, I totally understood that. And that's partly why the book was written.
It was, and over the course of knowing him, we spent hours and hours in idle conversation on the phone.
Yes.
Talking circles at weird hours of the day about a myriad of subjects, usually not the thing we had intended to talk about.
Yeah.
But all of it enjoyable and wonderful. So I had, having so many hours of just conversation and chat with him. I remember personally my feeling when I got your email that morning that it happened, and the most surreal sort of disconnect, because it was pre-dawn. I was out house sitting for friends in California, about to go spend a day at Disneyland with other friends.
Oh, gosh.
On New Year's Eve, and just feeling disconnected from it all. and unable to process. It didn't seem like a light like Neil's could go out at any point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was, I think you can, a lot of people remember exactly what they were doing when they heard. And it was a strange thing because it happened to us on this hillside in the dark, and it was a few hours of absolute horror. But then we gradually started getting, the phone started ringing from all over the world, literally. People saying they just heard this. Is it true? Is it true? And it was suddenly, there was a huge awakening of everybody who was saying, I was just doing this, or I was just, one of our kids was driving his children back from somewhere and pulled in, and I had to tell him that. Another one had just gone on his very first big holiday into Vietnam. He just arrived in Vietnam. He had to get on a plane and come straight back. And, so they all came the next day, but it was like suddenly in the middle of a day or just before you're doing something, your whole life changes in a blink.
On what had been a casual and relaxing day out for you both.
Yeah. I mean, just with some friends having a pre-New Year drink, and nobody had drunk very much. It was very convivial. And then we just walked out to the gate, and we were looking up at the stars. And Neil was very good at star sequences. He knew the panhandle and all these things, and he was pointing it all out. And we got to the gate, and he said, wait here, I'll get the car. And he never came back. And we, all of us, suddenly realized, hang on a minute, we were chatting and, laughing and being generally okay. And then we suddenly thought, he's been a long time. So we started to look for him. And then we found him at the foot of this little low wall, and he was just dead. He wasn't nearly dead or anything. He just died. And he was only about 3 meters away from us when he died. So it must have been completely silent. And so, that's how it happened, just as strangely as that.
Was there a catharsis in doing the book?
Mainly in that I wanted to say these things about Neil. And I suppose when if you saying catharsis, probably it happened more with the concert, actually. But with the book, certainly, I don't, I keep saying to people, I don't know how it got written, because I wake up very early at 5 o'clock, and I would work from 5 to 9. And it didn't seem, it just sort of, at that time of day, there was no phone calls or anything that early. So it just sort of happened. And at the end of it, I thought, I wonder if I've written enough to be, for it to be a book. And I had, but it wasn't painful at all. And it was cathartic in that I was talking about Neil all the time. I've just realized after all this, I miss him hugely still. So it didn't actually stop that, but I was glad that people liked the book and knew more about Neil.
Which was always the conversation that Neil and I would have so often, was that sort of how to overcome that threshold of the fact that he had an incredible body of work, that he was an incredibly talented performer, that he was a magnificent, wonderful live performer, just to get over that awareness hump of like, hey, people, here's this amazing artist you should see or listen to or just be aware of in this moment, who's still doing things, creating things, is there as a presence. He's not just this footnote or, oh, here's the guy who did this way back then.
Yes.
that there is a catalog, and obviously there was a lot of drama that went on with the catalog as well.
With the catalog?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes. I mean, there was, the thing is, what sort of happens when somebody just dies quickly like that is all these ends need tying up, and the catalogue was one of them. And, I think Neil and I tried our best not to get too serious with anything, like with if people didn't pay him, he didn't hassle them. He couldn't be bothered with it. And because he didn't hassle them, I thought, well, I can't have, so I didn't, neither of us were very good at this. We didn't That's why Neil was often out of pocket, because neither of us pursued it. Of course, when he died, I had to start gathering together all these strings that were untied and tie them up. And that was really hard, because I haven't got that sort of, I don't think like that. I'm much more, I like the creative side of things, not the business side. So we've had to rely on our sons and things like that to get things in order. But, there was a lot to get in order.
And I know that was a struggle. The book shows that it was a struggle. That business art tension was there the entirety of his career.
Yes.
Or sometimes not tension, because he would just let it go.
Yeah. But I always thought it was really strange, because Neil was such a good person to interview for anybody who was talking to him. His memory would, he'd remember things that nobody else could. He'd be able to quote things, pick up the guitar, play things. He was so good at that. And so now I have to do that, and I'm hopeless at it. I'm not nearly as good as Neil was. It's a shame, because there are so many of Neil's things that are still, one could quote and say. I think that's why I wrote the book, actually, because I put it in there rather than try and say it myself. He was so clever and so good to interview. I mean, you just wound him up. You must have noticed that. You just wound him up and never stopped.
Well, we both shared that. That's why the conversations would go on and on.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of calls ending with, Yvonne says I have to leave now. We have to go someplace. We have to be somewhere. We have this thing we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
You say that you're not good at that, but I think the fact that the book exists and the concert happened disproves you saying that, because Neil never finished his autobiography in any form.
No, he didn't.
This now exists. This is a completed thing that was done.
Yeah.
And as you said, pulling all those loose threads and tying them off and having some resolution to a lot of things that were just left open-ended for a long time.
Well, I'm hoping that I can get round to pulling Radio Noir together, because that's at least 4 parts of his life. It's 4 half hours.
I have so many drafts of that he sent over the years.
But he was he would wander. I mean, I suppose my loveliest memory of Neil, because he was always composing, always working some kind of big problem, global type problems out, or trying to think of funny things to say and whatever. He never stopped. And I've just got always had this lovely picture when we lived in France of him with a sarong very loosely tied, always at the risk of falling down, but it was very loosely tied, with an open shirt, a glass of wine and a ciggy, walking around this beautiful countryside, right in his own head, completely thinking about the odd line, that he needed to finish a song. Or he'd come bursting into the house with, I've just thought of something amazing. And it would be so far out that I could never get what it was, or not often. I'd often missed the point. And I was busy with something else. I go, yes, okay, yes. Now I
tweet about it. Go.
I could have remembered it. There was no reason to remember things, because he'd say them again and again. But now I wish.
But I can't think of a more fitting portrait also of just his career of, here's the business being this fitting sarong threatening to fall down, but he was always creative throughout it.
Yes.
That just seems to perfectly now in my mind capture how Neil sort of navigated through the past 50 years of a career. And also what's beautiful in reading the book is how you're there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And sharing this journey with him. I mean, was it 53 years?
Yeah, 53, exactly.
Which is nothing to shake a stick at. It is, in and of itself, is a remarkable thing and a wonderful thing.
It's not funny enough. Yeah, I think we were very, very suited, actually, because I was happy to go along with things. I wasn't rigid in any way, rule-wise. My kids would probably argue this, but I was never rigid. And so whatever way Neil went, I could easily go. I had nothing, no kind of mores or no kind of things saying, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. Or, the times with Ollie Halsall, for example, in my whole being, I wanted to stop them going out because they were so wild, those two. And but I never did. It's like, that's what they wanted to do, so they could do it. So we were very well suited. Neil could never have been talked to by a partner who told him what not to do. It would never have worked. And so I think that's why we were so well matched.
As you write, I certainly saw that as well with managers over the years. And the occasional time that I would try and corral things out of him.
Oh, yeah.
But it was always in the friendliest terms of, oh, I'll try. I promise you I'll get to it. I promise you. Oh, did you get to it? No, I'm working on it. Well, don't worry. We'll get there. And a lot of dear boys.
Yeah.
The two things that he seemed most keen for you to know at the start of your relationship was that he was losing his hair, that had to be a declaration, sort of like, well, here's a little warning to you. This is going.
That was hilarious. I mean, that really drew me to him because I thought, the first date going up to London was all exciting and everything. And he said, I think I'm losing my hair. And I thought, what did you say that even? Because we were 60s and hair was what you needed. You had long hair in the 60s. Everybody was growing it. But Neil didn't look bald at the time. He did have hair, but it was very fluffy hair.
But he knew it was coming.
Oh, yeah, he knew it was coming. All right. Actually, that did upset him at the time, believe it or not, because he was never worried about appearance. Not really. I mean, he was never worried about it and bothered about it. And he really was bothered about losing his hair, which was unlike Neil. I thought, I was quite surprised because he never had reacted badly to anything before then.
Well, I mean, he was very keen on hats.
Yeah, very keen.
And covering it. And in the characters, he would do wigs. So as far as public facing for most of that time, it looks like he never really enabled that as a thing that was more publicly known.
Yeah.
And then obviously he loosened up and was accepting in public about it.
Yeah. But he loved hats. He had hundreds of hats, as you know. He loved them and they suited him. Some people go, quite often, I think, people who go bald when they're quite young, they have the right shaped heads to go bald. See what I mean? And he had a very nice head.
Yeah. And as you said, he wore hats well. I mean, but I think that fit into that sort of character aspect of Neil. That sort of like you could tell he loved to inhabit the character of the hat.
Yeah, yes, he did.
But I thought the other thing is a statement that he made to you, and I'm curious because you don't really go too far into it. The other thing was he said, "Love me, love my band."
Yeah, and he meant that. He meant that too. That was, in other words, he was saying, if you take me whole, all these people that are going to come in our lives. Hey, in other words, and I thought it was nice standing with my cup of tea and pie at Chelsea Pie Stall at the time. I thought, what a sweet thing to say. But I mean, in retrospect, I can think it was jolly lucky that his band turned out to be such fantastic people that I had to love.
I mean, it would from your upbringing as well, and rather middle class, straight laced sort of upbringing.
Yeah.
Did it feel like you were on like the threshold of entering the circus at that point?
No, I think I was just relieved to find somebody as easygoing and easy to be with as Neil. I mean, it was always fun right from the very beginning because he was so funny and so bright. Just at the beginning of the Bonzos, it was exciting, and I was just very pleased to be there. I relaxed completely. Any kind of strictness in my upbringing, which really wasn't strict, but I dropped it instantly. I found a soulmate.
What is if there's sort of one memory that you feel sums up those times? As far as the early Bonzo hitting the road, art students out having this weird time, you also finding yourself, during
Oh,
that
exactly. I think that was the thing, that Neil and I really grew up together. But we had, the Bonzos. Well, I think one of the things was when he said, oh, yes, that was after it. Before he said, love me, love my band, he took me to see them. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. And it was crazy. But that was after that. I think he was slightly worried because that's why he said, love me, love my band. Because they were unbelievable. I mean, Viv was farting, belching, and they all were. And you just couldn't believe. But the more they did that, the more the audience loved them. So it was hilarious. Those early days were so funny.
You were all kids.
Yeah, really, we were.
Having kids yourself later and seeing them at the ages you were at that time.
Yeah.
Did that further put into context just how naive and...
Yes. Yes, say no more. It did. Because my kids didn't have, it was a time, that early 60s was a time in itself. It wasn't repeated. It's sort of, my children had they went to, college, and they have got ordinary jobs because they probably saw how totally precarious it was, whether the way we earned money or not, so they decided to be a bit more secure. But the lovely thing was when Luke decided to play the guitar in the concert, because Luke hasn't got much time. He's really, really busy most of the time, and he didn't have time. Doesn't play the guitar normally. He does a bit, but it was really lovely that he did that. And the other two were involved. Miles and Barney have always been involved in the way that they would help wherever they could. They very proud of Neil and loved seeing him perform. But they all had their own lives too.
And they all seem, for as chaotic as the business and a lot of that could be, you all seem to have a very stable and supportive family unit through that craziness.
I would say that we did, yes. Well, you had to work hard to keep it together because there were so many pulls away at that point. We were all growing up, my parents were wonderful because they always used to, if we needed to go up to Edinburgh, which wasn't a good place in the festival for children. Well, it did get a lot better, but it was all pubs and drinking late at night and stuff. But my parents always had the two eldest children, Miles and Luke, and they were just wonderful with them. So we always felt okay about leaving them with my parents. So that we were able to go up and have a good time in Edinburgh.
What kind of presents were Neil's parents? Because the book paints a very interesting portrait of them as well.
Oh, yeah. No, Neil's parents didn't look after the children. They were dog breeders. They like dogs. And Neil's convinced they like dogs much more than children as he was growing up. They were all treated the same. I mean, you'd come down in the morning and find 8 Irish wolfhounds looking at you, sort of wanting to be fed. And I had never had any experience of dogs like that, but they were really good with them. And she used to be a judge at Crufts, the big dog show in the UK. And when Neil was, occasionally Neil and I would escape from college and come and see her when she was judging. And she would take Neil like a pet dog and go and sort of pat him on the head and show him around to all these people. And he was really angry. He hated it.
Take a little treat out of her pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good, Neil. That's good, Neil.
Yeah, exactly that. Pat on the head. And yeah, that was funny. I thought it was funny anyway.
Well, I thought the one overriding, and I wanted to, before I forgot, the one thing I found the best sort of way to capture the Neil that I knew as a friend and love to see reflected is the title of the book, the revelation within the book, that the line from How Sweet to Be an Idiot, Dip My Brain in Joy, was actually a collaborative gift from his fellow Grimm's member, Brian Patton, when he was writing How Sweet to Be an Idiot. And Neil having no ego where he would reject someone offering up something in a collaborative process. Like he wasn't precious about, no, it has to be something that I create wholly out of me to be here. No, he recognized, oh, that is a great line, and it solves my problem, and thank you for the gift of that collaboration in that moment. And for that to be the title of the book, for me, seemed to have a resonance as far as capturing what Neil was like as a person.
Well, the thing was that we were all so close in that time. That was Grimm's. We were traveling around in a coach, and there were all sorts of things happened on that coach. But
it was a mobile art collective.
Yes, it was. Sort of, but quite a few fights and scraps and things like that. And because we were full of poets on the bus, so you can see. Anyway, but Neil was always in awe of people he thought were really, really brilliant at what they did, like Brian Patton or Roger McGough. And he, all the musicians he played with, he was always just one of them. He was never Mr. Superior or anything. So when Brian gave him that line, he was so, so grateful. And it was lovely for Brian too. It was such a, dip my brain in joy. It was a perfect line. And it's the sort of thing that Neil, in that sarong and the open shirt and the glass of wine and ciggy, exactly the sort of line he would have wanted. And he did, on the other songs he wrote, he would search for that one particular line and, not rest till he got it.
Well, I had the both surprise and honor of having him reach out to me when he was working on Singularity, what would be the final album, asking if he could use a saying of mine that I had told him years before that he was tickled by as a lyric in one of the songs.
Yeah.
And my first response was, I can't believe you're asking me. You're asking me because I had, that you would have sort of that level of believing that it was respectful to, hey, here's this thing that I heard you say. Would you be fine if I use this in one of the songs? And of course, instant yes. And honor.
What was it?
So I went back and I actually pulled the clip, if you'd like to hear the clip in the song.
Yeah.
Now we could be heroes and we could be jerks. We could all still pretend that democracy works. But from 6 feet under, pushing up daisies, you won't find me talking sane to crazy, no chance. With my soft shoe shuffle and my jazz hands, with my eyes and teeth like a happy guy, I can dance my way across the Badlands. So long, big smile, bye-bye.
Was you can't talk sane to crazy.
Yeah, that's a fabulous line. Just remember that, yeah. And yours.
That was mine, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm glad you let him have that one because it worked with this song, didn't it?
I have been listening again to his catalog, and it's both sad and beautiful how prescient and aware he was of so many things going on in the world. For me, particularly, even more so in the very most recent times, I do miss having his voice and perspective in being able to talk about what's going on.
Yeah. I bet I do. I do too. Yeah.
There was a discussion during the early days of, I'm not going to name names, but, a certain exit in the UK and then an election in the US and trying to process.
Yeah, yes, what's happening now. Yeah. Trying to process what's happening now.
Which is the function of art.
Yeah.
Either processing what's going on internally or externally.
Yeah. I would certainly I can't imagine how Neil would be dealing with what's happening now in America. I would love to have known what Neil would have made of it, actually, because Neil was very wise about things. He had a very good, like you say, perspective on things. He used to read around the subjects and not only, but, he was very good at understanding what was going on exactly.
And also a deep knowledge of economics and how that worked, and but not necessarily to his own benefit.
Yeah, no, it didn't work for him, but he knew how it worked.
Or advocating for himself, or getting others to advocate for him.
Yeah,
but he did know how the business worked. Yeah, and the sort of collapse of social media because of how important Twitter was for him in having an outlet. That's something as a process that you saw evolve over the years? Because you talk about him filling up notebooks and having all these things where he would jot down ideas and lyrics and whatever thought came in, or drawings, sketches, whatever. Do you feel that him getting on Twitter, because you also talk about that, about him sort of crafting bon mots for the day or insights for the day to post. Do you think that sort of took the place a little bit of journaling for him?
Yeah, probably it did. He certainly got into Twitter in a big way. But I think because he always admired Stephen Fry, who had about 9 million followers. And I think Neil was working up to that. But yes, he loved it because he could get things off his chest that way, and sort of things that had nagged him. He could find a clever way of saying it and get it down.
And also, it seems like he made so many more connections in that period of time, including people who just like, oh, you're still around.
Yeah.
That sort of shrinking of the distance between people, when it was functional, when it worked. When the world was somewhat functional.
Yeah, probably.
It seemed like a positive thing to have all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I never did Twitter, and I just used to be woken up and asked which. I'm terrible. I'm awful. When I'm first woken up, I'm like some kind of robot zombie, I think, and I need a few. Well, you saw it in the book. I used to have a strong cup of kids plonk a strong cup of coffee right beside me and say, what do you think? Which is the best one of these? And I knew what he wanted me to say. So that's what I said. Even though I might have disagreed.
But you knew he had to get it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a shame that all of that is, for the most part, gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it has, as it was, definitely gone.
As well as all the things that he contributed, because his account fell victim to being stolen by somebody else.
Well, so I hear.
Yeah.
But you know what? It takes so much to start following up these things. If you want any kind of life at all, some things I just have to let go. I can't manage it. I've been incredibly helped. If it hadn't been for Martin Lewis when Neil died, after Neil died, I would not have known which way to turn with record companies and things. He was incredibly helpful. And there have been other people that have just helped me sort these things out. And like what you're saying, things that somebody got one of his, was it addresses?
His account. They claimed it and turned it into a cryptocurrency.
That's right. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have to, I need to find somebody who can, because that's still happening and people do try and help. But what I want is a Rottweiler. That's what I want. Somebody who goes in there with teeth and fangs showing and gets what's supposed to be got. But,
I mean, what is the status of the catalog right now?
How do you mean?
Well, I know that the How Sweet to Be an Idiot, that deluxe edition came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
Which was a beautiful edition. If people haven't gotten it, they should, with bonus tracks and beautifully remastered. Right.
Yeah.
Are all of his solo recordings now back in possession?
We're trying to do all that. We've got a wonderful, I'm going to forget his second name, Richard. Wonderful Richard, who is sort of sorted out so much for us as far as all those bits of tapes that Neil left in a terrible mess in a big box. He's got those and he knows which ones are worth doing something with. And there's quite a lot of stuff in there that we can eventually put together and get out. But the most recent thing is the live show album that was sold at CD that was sold at the concert. And nobody can get that at the moment because we're sort of just developing this new website. And because I'm so hopeless at websites, I don't know what I'm doing, but I have somebody's help who does know what he's doing. And
if it's any consolation, 99% of the people are hopeless at websites.
Oh, good.
So you are in fine company. There are very few. That's why they turn to people to do those things. So Please do not continue to feel
to
bad.
Yeah, well, that's in about. I mean, it has been being launched from January every week until I hear it's good to launch on a Monday rather than the Friday. So every Monday we think yes, this Monday, next Monday, and it goes on, and it's still not made the Mondays yet. So we're working hard. It won't be long now, but then people will be able to buy the book on it, but also the CD and anything else we put out. It'll be everything about Neil in one place, really, hopefully.
Once it's launched, then it's launched. So whatever time it takes to get it right is beneficial.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So is there anything that hasn't come back yet?
How do you mean?
That is still in flux of trying to sort out? I know he talked about it seemed like it might be close on reclamation for the Ruddles tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Is that still in progress?
Sorry, what was he going to do with the Ruddles tracks?
He thought that he could actually get the original Ruddles tracks back from ATV.
Oh, yes. Yeah, well, there you go. See, I'd forgotten about those because there are so many other things that have happened. But yeah. I've just put a note about that, so thank you for reminding. I haven't a clue, but I think gradually we'll get there. It's a case of picking up every little scrap and putting it in the right place. At the moment, I've got about 70 notebooks of Neil's that he left. That we're trying to work out whether to let some kind of university or something have them, plus all the other stuff we've got, so that people can actually have a look and find them if they want to. Like some people give them to an art school or a college or BBC or something like that, so that you can always access them and they're kept in pristine condition. So we're sort of looking at all those sort of things so that the stuff just doesn't get sort of, isn't kept properly or isn't safe.
It's not just in a damp basement.
Yeah, exactly that. So we're doing all that as well. But Radio Noir is interesting, and I think that would be, I think people would love to hear that because it is the nutty Neil.
It is sort of the purest distillation of what a guy tinkering in his basement will come up with.
Yeah.
When he's got nothing to do but just think and overthink.
Yeah, it's an what he calls it, an exploration of human consciousness. And he goes into such great detail that it's hilarious, really.
I think it also turned into an exploration of human consciousness and procrastination.
Yeah, and procrastination. Yes, good one.
There were a lot of conversations about, well, Neil, you could lock it. You could, it's just maybe put one out or just do, like, I'm not noticing much of a difference on it. But as you know, it's a lot of, well, I think I just want to take a little time with it. You've taken years with it. At some point, you do need to put it out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And every version of it was fun and interesting.
Yes.
So yeah. I never quite grasped what he didn't see in it.
What he didn't see? What do you mean?
What was the thing that was keeping him from feeling like he had unlocked it? That he had finished it?
Radio Noir?
Yeah, that he had done what he needed and wanted to do with it.
Well, he just managed 4. That was the only thing, but he was getting somewhere. We had this wonderful studio made in France when and we had to have this, it was underneath, I could never understand why. When we had all these rooms, sunny and nice and above the ground, he wanted a basement. And so we had to dig under one of the houses and made him a beautiful studio. And there was where he worked on Radio Noir. And it was this little environment. And I think he would have finished it. He would have finished his, it would have been a life story if he'd just lived. But, it was the perfect place for him. And he was like a little, a little gnome going into this little hole in the ground. And that was his hole.
It was excavating his life.
Yes.
Was the studio that he had in the barn similar to that once you were inside it, as far as like no light, enclosed space?
Yeah, no, there's no lights. Well, yes, it was very similar to Farnham, you mean? Well, No, it wasn't actually. I have to say, apart from the instruments and everything. This was an old farmhouse with big stone walls, and Neil we had all the floors done, so carpets, and he'd got a guitar store, which he'd never had before, and a bits and pieces type room where he kept lots of little bits of wire and stuff. And he was very, very organized in there. And especially when I think of that, I think of Steve James, because he came to do the preparation for the Nearly Really CD, which Neil recorded in Australia. And Steve came over to do the pre-recording. And the two of them working in there was just hilarious listening to them. Yeah, they were good nights. And I think I probably said in the book how I would wait and see if they were going to come out at all. And if they did, we'd have bottles of champagne down by the swimming pool, because we built a lovely swimming pool as well with them. It was always warm because the sun was so warm, and we'd have crazy days and nights with those two working like stink on this Nearly Really. And yeah, it was lovely.
Do you think that sort of lightless quality was an attempt to sort of like, I don't want to know how much time is passing down here?
Yeah, really. What do you mean? Just unaware of yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like the external, if the sun's coming up, I've worked through the night. If you don't see it, then you don't know.
Exactly, yes. No, Neil often did that. I never knew whether he was actually going to make it to bed, or whether I was going to find him in the garden or in the studio. It was always exciting.
Is there a point that you can identify or span a period when you feel like everything was in alignment and everything was working as you hoped it would, as far as the family, Neil's creative life, the economy of it, the economics were working. Everything was like, this is how we hoped it would be.
Yeah. That happened. That happened in Farnham in England. And we had a big house, which I have to say, none of our houses have been expensive, but we seem to have been so bad with money, but so good with selling and buying our houses. So it sounds like house in France and stuff. The house in France was simply because we owed so much money on the house in England. We had to sell it. And then for that money, you could get a much better place in France. So we ended up leaving a lovely house in England for an even lovelier place in France for half the money. So it was a no-brainer, really. But both in Farnham and in France, when we finally settled down, things worked as well as they possibly could. We were both supremely happy there. I mean, we would have loved it if the children had all moved up to France too. But apart from that, Neil's work was going well. He felt free and able to do what he wanted to do. And I think they were good times.
And you also, your career was taking off as well.
Yeah. Well, I thought I did actually play the guitar when I met Neil, but he was so much better. And I thought I'm not competing with this. So anyway, I was always arty. I could always draw and stuff. So I became a garden designer. And of course, I had a very special garden because I was working as a garden designer for about 20 years or something. And at the end of that time, was when we got to know George and Olivia Harrison, and they just needed help with their gardens. So that was wonderful. It was a wonderful job. But I never went on my CD because I felt it was I shouldn't do that.
Again, that humility that both you and Neil shared.
Yeah, I shared
Sometimes
it with Neil.
was to your disadvantage.
Yeah, no, it was good. It's happy times. And quite often we'd have situations where George and Neil would be sitting watching Olivia and I planting, or we could get them to do it. It was just very nice, very easy.
I want to talk about garden design. Did you start out in a firm doing it and then start doing your own thing? Or what was
No, I was running the landscape department of a big horticultural company, and then they decided to just be selling plants and not have a landscape department. So I moved and started my own landscaping company, and they would send the people that applied for garden design me. It was very, very easy. And I I did a lot of work then. It was, but I was working from home. It was always very difficult without having au pairs and things, because Neil was always in and out and all over the place if he was filming. So one of us had to be at home, and mainly I could work from home and then just go out to site when the children were at school and stuff. So it worked very well.
Can you describe the process? Because I'm really curious about how. So a client would go, "Hey, we have this piece of property."
Have the property I'd go over and spend quite a lot of time with them, asking, what they were thinking, what they wanted, what their budget was, what actually they wanted from this garden. Then I'd go back and draw out 2 or 3 suggestions of how to do it, and then take it back to them, and they would try and see which one they wanted or would like. And so maybe I'd have to alter it a bit. And then I'd do a planting scheme. And then the guys, the builders and the plantsmen would come in and make it. And and I did that, the Chelsea garden for, I used to do Chelsea's for the Adrian Bloom, who had a big nursery in England, but he used to do a lot of traveling. So I used to design the gardens for him at Chelsea. But then I did one for George, and it was lovely. The whole experience was lovely because Olivia absolutely wanted this to happen. So, with her backing, we could get the best people to do the work. And it ended up being a lovely garden. It was the 4 stages of George's life, really. Sort of childhood, and then the teenage Beatles bit, and then the quiet meditative bit, and then passing on to the afterlife. And, it was nice.
So all those years later, when you started doing garden design, do you feel that you achieved the art career that you had always wanted to have?
I didn't know what I wanted to have. I didn't know what I wanted to have at all. I fell into it. It's a bit like Neil falling into open doors. I just fell into, we moved at one point from London to this cottage in the middle of green fields and with bushes in it, and I didn't know what they were. And I went to a horticultural college, really, for half a morning a week, just to find out what these things were and what I had to do with them. And when I walked through the doors, I was thinking, because I could always draw, and I suddenly found myself designing and getting much more into horticulture generally. So I had 3 years at college and then came out and started designing gardens. That's how it happened.
But you talked about your earlier school career, like when you met Neil, is, you were sort of pushed to more straight-laced studies.
No, not really. I was doing drama in Goldsmiths, and he was in the art college, and I was doing drama. And no, I don't think there was anything straight-laced about us at all. We really didn't do much work past that at the end of it.
So the design sensibility was able to come out into a career.
Yeah. That was good because certainly up to then it hadn't. But everything in garden design, everything comes into it, and sort of being able to draw, give impressions of, but also to be able to do architectural drawings that builders can follow, if you see what I mean, by using scale drawings and stuff. All that came into it. So it was very, very satisfying, very fulfilling. And Neil was always totally supportive. And they're, in fact, so supportive that sometimes he'd come round to see clients and they would ask me all these sort of quite difficult questions, and Neil would answer them. Because he picked up so much that he just couldn't keep quiet, so I just kick him.
Have you revisited any of the gardens you've done in the past?
Oh yeah. I have, of course, because it is nice to just know that they're all still carrying on. Although the trouble is that if people can afford a garden designer, they're probably in big houses, and so they sell their house and the person comes in, wants to change it. And I have been in situations where for three different clients wanted the same garden changed when they moved in. So,
well, at least you knew the area.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is there any garden that has been extant the longest, that is still in sort of the condition that you laid out?
Oh, I think Friar Park is really. And there's another one in Henry Moore's garden at Much Haddam. I think stayed pretty much how it was. Yeah. I haven't been to, yes, that's main ones. Other gardens change hands so often you really can't. I've got photographs of then and when I went to visit them. But, it's just one of those things. Some gardens are big gardens and they don't change very much. But little gardens do.
Do you have clients still reach out to you knowing that you did the garden?
No, because I don't. I no longer do it. I just.
Do you miss it?
Well, I've just got I've never had a small garden. We've always had land, really. Just came with the cottages and stuff. And so now I've got a small garden, and I quite enjoy just making big changes in that and doing all sorts of things. I don't really want to take on commissions anymore. Not really, unless it was really tempting, really couldn't possibly turn it down then.
Have people tried to lure you back?
Yeah, well, I've had lots of offers, but nothing that has actually made me say yes. So, no.
What would be the thing that would have to be there for you to be excited about it?
Money. I didn't mean that.
You said it. I heard it.
You didn't. No. It would have to be somebody I liked working for, and they would have to have a fair sized garden so I could actually do something. And I think that really nice people with a good idea of what they wanted. I used to get situations where the husband and wife would argue in front of me, and say that she would have one idea, he would have the other. So I'd just have to walk out, because you can't do half a garden for the wife and half for the husband.
And you're also not there to provide therapy.
Exactly. So, that didn't work. But generally, I had some lovely people. I had to do all sorts of things like planting forests, planting huge areas of perennials and herbaceous and shrubs and things. And, it's just, it all seems so long ago, but so quick. It passed so quickly somehow. I haven't really loved doing it again since Neil died, actually. Don't think. Yeah.
Is that because of just, as far as the things that have happened in these few short years since, you had to uproot again and move again. And obviously we had COVID hit just as you were dealing with all of this. Mm-hmm. And have to navigate that. And as you said, trying to rein in all these loose ends.
Yeah.
Do you feel, in having sort of tied up a lot of those loose ends, the book is done, the concert's done, mm-hmm. that now, much like tending this now small personal garden for yourself, you're now looking at, hey, now this is my time to figure out.
Yeah. Yes, in a way, but one's life isn't just like a little
garden.
It's like a little bolt hole. It's like I'm still connected with everything I was connected with, and I enjoyed doing Neil's stuff for Neil, but it was Neil and my life really. So it was. It wasn't difficult. It wasn't. I'm glad I did it. Now I'm getting this website. The things I don't like doing are things I can't cope with, like computers, websites, and I need help with those things. And it annoys me when I can't do it. But I think generally, I don't know what's coming and where it's coming from, basically, and I'm not bothered with where it's coming from. If you see what I mean, whatever I do in the future, it might be something completely off the wall. I don't know. I'm not prepared to go down yet.
That I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to hear that. And I hope that someone backs that dump truck full of money and soil up to your door and says, make something out of this for me, please.
Get the money.
Where are you finding the most pleasure now? Where's the most simple pleasure for you coming from right now? Is it just a great cup of coffee, or?
No, I feel very near. I'm very near the sea. I live very near the sea, and I go out to the sea every day. I go and stand or walk right by the sea, and that is fantastic. I love that, and my best ideas come there.
And what are those ideas? What are the things that are percolating in your head right now?
What?
What are the things that are percolating in your head right now? Are you feeling personally creative right now? Are you feeling personally?
Oh, yes. I'm thinking of lots of things. I did write some children's stories and illustrate them a couple of years ago, and I haven't done anything with them, so maybe I will. But I'm also thinking that there is something else out there. I'm not sure what it is, but I know that I haven't finished yet. It's sort of I can't hibernate. I don't want to be myself in this little house, in this little garden. That's not me at all. I have a lot of friends, and I think I like to be socially very much alive and creative that way, really. It's difficult. I haven't really had much time to think what I'd actually like to happen. I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go back to France for a bit and try and live in France for about 6 months, I think, again, because it was totally lovely. And I met the sort of people out there who I know here. They're very similar people. And so that might be one thing that I'll do, and try and pick up the language again. I was getting quite good at it, but I think I've forgotten it mostly now.
So what I'm hearing is that if people actually take a chance and go talk to people are generally the same wherever you go.
Absolutely, they are. Yes, you've noticed that, have you?
What an amazing thing that a lot of people don't seem to get in these times.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what you find.
If only there were artists who talk about this constantly.
Yes.
And create art to that effect that people could and should bond over. What a world that people could bond over.
Yeah.
Sort of shared perspective if they just open their eyes and hearts.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
We're all very similar, I think. It's just I just don't like tightness, or I don't like, I feel very, very much the same as Neil, that I like easygoing things, easygoing people, and easygoing, not to the extent of not noticing what's happening in the world, but sort of peaceful people, really, who understand it and would do something if asked. But really, there's nothing we can do, us little people. We have to let these big bullies boss us around, but we don't have to acknowledge them.
And we can make as many connections as we can on a personal level.
Well, we should do. Absolutely.
We had talked about this a while ago. We were just sharing memories of Neil. I was talking about the last time I spent time with him when he did his New York show at McCabe's.
Oh, yeah.
And when someone had accidentally left the money for the band back at the hotel room, and how that became his instant focus on, well, no, they have to be paid. That has to be here.
Mm.
And he was in the middle of rehearsals when it was found out that was left accidentally.
Yeah.
And that became his sole focus was, no, that's an important thing to have here. We can't have this night happen and they don't get paid. The band doesn't get paid. Not him, the band's money.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I volunteered because I knew it was a thing that had to be done. And like, no, you need to focus. I'll run back. I had to cross the river.
Oh, God.
During, the start of rush hour, and then get back with it in time for the show. But I did. But it's just seeing how on a dime he could turn where our other people he felt should be taken care of being taken care of.
Yeah.
And how important that was to him.
Oh, totally it was. Neil would rather go without, as long as the band were paid. This was one of my beefs. No, it wasn't really. But Neil always did that. He would literally come away with nothing, having been the one who had got the band together just so the band could be paid. But the band, he worked with some lovely people and they weren't pressurizing him. But of course they wanted to be paid. And so, there was a lot of that. I mean, he worked with some really good people. The two people that we didn't have at the concert were JJ and Tom Fry and JJ Jones. He was a drummer and a double bass. And Neil and Tom and JJ used to we did a big tour right around the USA and around the UK as well. But they were so good together, and they looked fantastic on the stage because Tom was tall, very tall, with dreadlocks, white dreadlocks. And JJ, he was long, dark hair. And there was Neil, and looking like Neil, with these two people with him. And it was lovely. And it was, what I was trying to say was all the people he worked with, he would have wanted to pay because he appreciated them so much. So there was never a question of that, And I felt the same, really.
To many times his own detriment.
Yes. So, yes, money was an idea as far as Neil was concerned.
He was aware of its existence. He knew the processes by which to attain it. But what for me was remarkable was that he didn't want to cross that line into becoming, bluntly, to become an asshole.
Yeah, no, he didn't. He was, that was the thing about him, really. He was a thoroughly nice person. He did get angry. He did get frustrated, but never.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, you did.
Your book illuminated that because it was about a sound guy.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
when he came out to Atlanta and did Dragon Con, and we had a grand old time, him and Terry Gilliam and I remember we had this concert, and he requested a keyboard, and they delivered the wrong keyboard, first and foremost, just because just in town, they couldn't find the one that he needed. So he was already dealing with that. And then we were in a very quick rehearsal because of the turnover for the rooms that we were in.
Yeah.
And the sound guy was sort of not really paying attention or not as committed to him as like, listen, we have to get this sorted. This is what it needs to be. Let's get this done. We started the show and everything went askew and nothing was sounding right. And the sound guy was not at the board. No one was there.
God.
And I could just see him sort of set his jaw because this is in front of the audience and just like determine, okay, well, this is what we're dealing with, but the audience is here and I'm going to be here for the audience. But I am very, very unhappy right now.
Oh, God, yeah. He hated, there were some sound guys that could not do enough and others who couldn't do anything. It was just, but also that happens a lot in America because we had to hire pianos all the time. And sometimes you'd get a sort of kiddies piano, a kiddies electric piano. They had no idea, and yet it was sort of 84 weighted keyboard, which sort of told them it was a full keyboard. And then they developed, bring one that was half the size it should have been. And it was too late to change anything. So Neil really had to work hard on those nights.
I remember his retail therapy because I know, I had a talk with him. He was not in a happy place after that on that night. And we had more show to do the next day. And his retail therapy, he went out into Atlanta and bought himself a ukulele.
Yeah.
Which, I understand he still played after that as well. The ukulele he bought in Atlanta. In fact, I think he had it with him. Yeah, he had it with him when I saw him in New York. But I remember him buying this thing and going, but I can't bring it back. Can you ship it? Can I leave it with you? So then it became a task. I think shipping it cost more than the ukulele did.
Oh, God. Well, it's funny because those things, some things that you'd think would really freak him out, didn't. And there was one thing in New York, and it was a big nightclub. I can't remember the name of it, but it was big. And Neil it was just Neil, no backup of any kind. And he'd set up the stage. He'd started the show, and suddenly he bumped into his guitar stand, and his guitar fell face downwards on the stage and completely detuned itself. So then he had to pick it up and retune it because he'd only got one guitar with him, believe it or not. He had to retune it without making the audience wait. So he'd tell jokes all the time he was retuning. And you'd think, well, how can he do this? How can he remember? Because, everyone was sort of waiting and on edge sort of thing. And he was having to do this, but keep them entertained at the same time. So, he could do things like that. So it took a lot to blow his cool, really.
Yeah, but he seemed to have a reset button at a certain point.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Where he just sort of like recalibrate and go, okay, well, this is the world as it exists in this moment. And how am I going to be in it?
Yeah, well, that was so nice, really, because you knew that really you couldn't lose because he was always going to do that reset, and it was always okay then.
There's that lovely passage in the book. You talk about a row that the two of you had, and he drove off, and you bicycled after him.
That was so silly. He drove off so slowly.
And then the two of you just acknowledging and accepting and embracing the absurdity of it all.
Yeah.
But that seemed to be sort of Neil as well, just embracing the absurdity. Like, that's the one thing about his, again, that I miss in these times we live in, is just that he was very keenly attuned to identifying and finding a way to communicate the absurdity of everything around him.
Yeah. He would have had a great time right now. It's absurd what's happening. I can't.
A great time, and that's sort of what an absurd time to be here and see all of this.
Yeah. I was supposed to be coming to, I am supposed to be coming to New York to do the Beatle Fest in end of March. And I sort of phoned Mark up and said, gosh, I've got the second name. Anyway, we said, would you feel like doing it? And I said, well, only if Trump doesn't get in, I'll do it then. And of course, and he said, there's no chance. He said, Trump getting, he just absolutely brushed it aside. Of course, Trump got in. So I said, well, no, I'm not coming over.
Well, as long as democracy doesn't fall apart, then I'm coming.
Yeah.
Mark Lapidus.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all very, very weird.
Yeah.
In fact, I just, because the book reminded me of it, and then I was watching an archival interview with Neil, and I posted his quote. I look around the world today, and I think, how on earth did Kafka know how stupid it could get?
Yeah.
Which, yeah. There's a Neil quote for every moment we find ourselves in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what now is the current status of the concert? I mean, for those who aren't aware, I'm gutted that I was not able to go to the concert.
It was a little it was a what did Neil say? Yeah, Martin Lewis said it was great, but it was a little ragged round the edges. And Neil would have said, I've never done a slick show and I don't intend to start now. And we sort of carried on the tradition, really. But the guys only had 1 day's rehearsal because they were coming from everywhere and they couldn't get, the thought of staying for 2 nights in hotels. Well, some of them had to do that anyway, but getting from where they were going and rehearsing for 2 nights was just impossible. Most of the Americans came over on the night before and just rehearsed on the actual day of the concert. But it worked. I mean, that was due to this guy that I worked with called Doug Hunter, who was, and also John Altman, who was the MD. I mean, when Doug and I first started to put it together, we knew we needed an MD, but we didn't believe that John Altman would do it. But of course, he was the natural choice because he'd worked with Neil on just about everything that Neil had worked on, from Do Not Adjust Your Set. So once he was on board, then the guy who worked with me was so keen and so good at what he did. He compiled endless lists as we went through all the people that I basically asked all the people that that had worked with Neil that I knew. And I went through the whole lot and we found who could do it and who couldn't do it and stuff. And then we'd put songs that we thought maybe would suit this person or that person. But of course, they all had their own ideas about the songs they would do. So Doug has these lists. Doug's lists have become notorious of changing. And, halfway through, we realized we didn't have any women in this. So on the same day, Doug asked Maddie Pryor, I asked Charlie Dore, and John Altman asked this wonderful girl, Isabella Coolstock. Now, Isabella had never worked with Neil, but she was very young. I mean, she must be early 20s if she's that. And she's a brilliant performer, but she was really into it. And I think the whole audience wondered, did Neil, because Neil was old enough to be her granddad, really. Yes. Even older. And so everyone was thinking, what's she doing? But she was absolutely brilliant. She just loved to do the songs. And of course, Maddie Pryor was wonderful. And it's just about everybody we asked. We asked Elliot Randall because he and Ken Thornton had played this amazing sort of guitar duet in the last Bonzo's concert at Coco's. And Elliot was really keen, but he had a sort of accident we thought wasn't, we thought he'd hurt his arm when he came in because he fell on this little ramp, and he played manfully through the first half of the rehearsal. But then it was hurting a bit, so he went to the hospital and had an x-ray, and it turned out he'd broken his arm. So he couldn't be at the concert. So that was sad. Lots of things happened like that. People had to pull out because they're all old. Of course they are, they played with Neil. So, all these awful things were happening. But we had, in the end, 50 performers, I think. And then it was a case of corralling them into the time slot. But they were really, really good at keeping to their 5 minutes, I think they got each. And we had representatives from every bit of Neil's career. And even Emo Phillips came from the USA.
Yeah.
And Yola Tengo, everybody's quite surprised that Neil worked with Yola Tengo, but he did. And he thought they were brilliant. And so it was lovely having them there, and people from Slovenia. And then we got Charlie Morgan came to do some of the drumming, and Morgan Fisher came from Japan, which Neil would have been absolutely blown away if he'd heard the people that turned up for this concert. It would have been the best thing ever. So for the first time since Neil died, I felt like he'd had the send-off he deserved rather than just disappearing on that hillside.
And it was every bit as beautiful and delightfully shambolic as it should have been.
Yeah. No, it was lovely.
Everything was recorded.
Yes.
Right?
We're making a film. We are going to make a film. We had one guy doing a sort of documentary filming, like backstage, and actually he was brilliant because with somebody with a camera on their shoulder facing you, you'd normally freeze up, but he had such a way about him. He's so relaxed that people didn't freeze up, and hopefully we've got some good stuff there. And then we had this other guy filming the show, and there were 3 static cameras in the O2 as well. And Steve James, have you heard of Steve James?
Yes.
He came to do the sound for the film. And once all of them get their bits together, we can go ahead and make the film. And it might be sort of like a documentary film, or it might be just a film of the actual concert. We just don't know yet.
Hopefully sometime this year?
No, well, it depends. I mean, it's only early now. It's only February. So it might be at the end of the year. Yeah, it might be then.
Any plans for an audio release of the concert as well?
Yes, we have. That's all been recorded. That's probably going to be the first thing that's going to be released rather than, wait for the film. But there will be an audio, yeah. So hopefully we've squeezed every last bit of juice out of that.
There's always more juice to squeeze.
Really?
Just ask anyone who has ever owned Neil's music that wasn't Neil. They will continue to squeeze.
Funny way of putting it, yes. Well, notebooks, we don't know whether to put them out or not. And
well, I hope that if you do donate or anything happens, that at least you retain full scans or copies of everything to make publicly. Because the problem is a lot of that stuff, it always feels like it gets donated and then it's fine if you go visit the place, but they don't have a digital archive available, so it really isn't accessible to a lot of people. It just sort of exists in the university's basement as opposed to a personal basement.
Yeah. Well, we are trying to get that to happen. Andy Roberts has got all his music stored in Liverpool Art School or something like that. And I think that's probably, we'll try for Goldsmiths if they do that, where Neil went, to store all his stuff. But the most important thing, that is kept, it's sort of in good condition.
Right.
And all the CDs and everything else.
Reading the book it was enjoyable, but also heartbreaking in a lot of ways. For obvious reasons. I don't want to say it was a difficult read because it was not a good book. So I want to make that absolutely clear, that it was difficult just knowing Neil and you describing his passing and the circumstances. And part of it is these things exist because Neil is not here.
Yeah.
That's why all these things.
Yes, exactly.
Happened. Yeah. So it's a weird thing to try and have to reconcile. emotionally.
Yeah.
And I say this, of course, talking to you, of course you know these things. But anyone listening, it is a hard thing to reconcile knowing that this great concert happened and all these performers came out and these people visited because he's not here.
Mm.
And I even hesitate to use the phrase not here or left or gone because everyone's memory of him still persists.
Yeah.
The work
Yes.
still persists and is available, and increasingly more so.
Yeah.
Through the work that you're doing and everyone is doing to help facilitate that.
Yeah.
So he's not gone. That's the thing, that the existence of these things and memory of him proves that he is not gone.
I talk to him all the time. I say, I should have gone first. You, what's it? Yeah, no, I talk to him often. I think the hole in my life is actually huge. And because he was sort of everything, he was funny, he was not lazy, he was energetic and intelligent. And I can't, there was nothing really, so there is a huge hole. And I think, like I said in the book, sometimes you think a part of you has gone, which it has, but it's a part of you that you didn't sort of know you had. But it's not there. So there's a sort of hole. And it's just difficult to say. I mean, so many people who've lost their loved ones have the same thing, have the same. Joan Didion wrote about her loss, and that was exactly the same. You're not sure what's happened. Something awful's happened, but you're not sure what it is and how it affects you until you realize it's just not around anymore. And but I have, as everyone seems, yes, but at least you can put a CD on and hear him singing, or you can, listen to, there's always bits of Neil on the radio. You can hear it, at least you can do that. But actually, it's not much of a compensation.
No, because you can't get a real-time interaction.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your answer to this would be, and I'll offer up mine first. I was wondering, if I could sum up my experience with Neil in a word, or just Neil as for what he represented to me.
Mm-hmm.
The word that I kept turning back to, especially after reading the book and pouring through the conversations we've had over the years, is just the word interested.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was always interested in something new, hearing from somebody new, talking to somebody, finding out about a thing, relating that, seeing if you were interested in that thing that he was interested in.
Yeah.
And that for me sums up, the fact that he was interested in me and I was interested in him and able to have a friendship off of that. That for me sums up who Neil was for me. Is there any sort of word or phrase or thought that for you?
Yeah, well, maybe I think the thing about Neil, that he was kind to everybody. He was kind, and I think the quality of kindness is huge. And there aren't many people who have it, but Neil did in spades, and he appreciated everybody. He would, I think I say in the book that if we got a plumber in, the plumber didn't leave. Neil would, they would be talking for hours. Neil was so exactly what you say, interested in whatever the plumber had to say. And any kind of person who came to work for us was a sort of live-in situation.
And he was also even interested in awful situations.
Yes.
Or awful people. Like, it's really curious why you're so bad. Why are you like this? Why are you doing these things?
Yeah, that's right.
Would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, I don't know whether he'd say that, actually. He'd just start talking about it and he'd ask.
You're a real asshole. Before we wrap, I was listening to the last bit of a chat that I had done with Neil back in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's okay with you, I'd like to play a little piece of it.
Yep.
Just because it really struck me in listening back to it.
Okay.
But it's not easy, less is more, and that keeping it simple and keeping a lyric simple.
And so I work hard on that, it's, what I'm trying to think of the middle age, sort of. Well, you up for a lyric spout?
I would love a lyric spout. Spout off.
I don't mind just sitting here all by myself. By myself is all I need for now. All I need to know is in my memory. All I need to understand is how. Can anyone feel so alone they don't know what to think? If I knew, I'd tell you in a heartbeat, in a blink. But here am I, and where are you? And what if I should say to you, my heart would break if ever you should leave me, just sitting here, all by myself, just sitting here. Well, I think that sort of has the mark of elderliness on it.
I mean, there certainly seems to be a touch of a bit of melancholy to that.
Well, yeah, but hopefully it doesn't come across like that. It's a bit like Friends at the End of the Line. That song is you could be it could be horrid, but it doesn't. It seems to sort of take it on the chin, and I think that's really what you do, given the fact that, I'm going to go off track again, but I saw a Woody Allen documentary, and there he was, in a cinema, and it was full close-up, really big close-up, full screen. And he said, I was a normal, happy-go-lucky kid till about 5, and they told me about mortality. And this kid's going, what do you mean it's not forever? It's and it sort of explains a lot. It does. And what is the other image that somebody told me I rather liked? Sort of middle age is like being on top of a hill, and you look down at all around you, and then the path you're taking goes down into a wood. And when by the time you get down towards the woods and you start to see the trees and the branches, you start thinking about things in a different way. You start thinking about perspective, 3 dimensions, 4 dimensions. You get anything you can, Ken.
Well, we're going into the can now. France really has changed you.
Oh, the can.
Yeah. Friends at the end of the line really does seem, as you said, it could feel a melancholic song if interpreted one way, but I've always taken it as feeling more of a celebration of the journey.
That's exactly that's a good way of putting it. And that's what I hope the Sitting Here song is like, because if you just read lyrics, you sound like this next poem is about this and it's all about that. And I've often been to poetry readings with Roger McGough and Brian Patton and things like that, with various bearded, corduroy-trousered poets, explaining what their poem is about. And I thought, oh, bloody hell, why can't you just read the poem? We'll decide what it's about. Anyway.
Yeah, that's nice. I love the How Did Kafka Know? I love that. And yeah, then the song. It was the last song he ever wrote, Sitting Here. I've learned to play that on the piano because it was so beautiful. And it's one of the lines says something about leaving, that heart would break if ever you should leave me. And he left me, which I remind him constantly that.
Well, when you talk today, you'll have to bring it up. And listen, Ken played this clip, and the irony was just dripping off of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, Neil, Ken wouldn't shut up. I get it now.
Yeah, no, that was a lovely interview, actually, but it's really nice. He sounded like he'd got a cold. When he got a cold, he always got a monster cold, so he could hardly, because he smoked. And, it was always much worse. It sounded very coldish on that.
Very congested.
Yeah.
I think it was probably also an early morning, too. So it was probably a combination.
All right. All right.
Trying to sync up our schedules.
All right.
In fact, I think it was. I think it was like probably 4 a.m. for me or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's an excuse then.
I'm very thankful and appreciative as a friend who knew him for a drop in the bucket compared to most folks in his life. But the fact that the book exists and that you did that and put all that thing down in a more permanent state.
Yeah. No, I'm glad I did it for that reason.
And not just a celebration of a life.
Yeah.
But also an ethos of just a way of being. Of, you talk about kindness and curiosity.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, here's a way to be in this life. Here's how Neil was.
Yeah, exactly that.
And I loved and wanted even more you as a person, distinct individual within that tapestry. And that you talked about that and brought that in. So that it was not just a celebration of Neil, but a celebration of you both.
Yes, both of us. Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Like you weren't some kind of accessory or prop or,
I certainly was.
or side piece. And knowing Neil would not have been able to function in life without the partnership that you two had.
No, exactly. That's why I kept telling him.
Having seen and been adjacent to a lot of the mistakes that were made. And a lot of poor choices.
Yeah.
I know very well. But what was also beautiful was that he fully embraced and accepted and appreciated the partnership that you had.
Yeah. Yes, he did. Absolutely. We both did. We both knew it was very precious, always. So that sort of thing about chasing him down the road was funny. It never happened twice. It didn't happen twice. we just felt such idiots. Do we have to behave like a television series like EastEnders? Do we have to? No, silly. At once we thought every now and then we'd think we were behaving like that sort of a couple, and we stopped it pretty smartish.
Well, yeah, I mean, having a mutual awareness of not just yourselves, but each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Is a powerful thing to have in a relationship.
Yeah, it is.
So, it's a beautiful thing that that's captured in the book. Again, for that, people wanting to see, hey, here's a document of how you can be in these situations.
Yeah.
And how you can treat yourself and each other. And, and nobody's life is perfect and no situation is perfect 100% of the time. And there's drama and things that happen throughout. But if you can strive to be better in all things and acknowledge when you're not and try and work on that.
Yeah. Striving's an important word, I think, things need to be striven.
And pulling it back to Neil, I mean, the fact that one of his collections is works in progress, or one of his albums is works in progress. Again, we're all works in progress.
Yeah, we certainly are. But I'm near at the end of mine, I think.
I don't know. I think you got a few more gardens in you.
Right.
I can hear the trucks backing up right now. But the thing that I think that's important and that has shown, and if we want to cut out metaphors, after all of these large gardens for others that you've tended, your focus right now is on that small, private, personal one that you tended for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that the book has shown you're not too keen on interviews.
Well, not after that one.
I'll leave that for people reading the book, and I hope everyone reads the book. But
that was embarrassing. I was so embarrassed then, but Neil taught me not to be embarrassed about it. He said, nobody reads these things. And it's true that nobody did.
Well, I can guarantee you that none of the things I said will be swapped in as things that you said. So there'll be no confusion.
You wouldn't dare.
So I really appreciate, it was really important to me to, if you were up for it, have you on to talk about the book and all these things and to shine a spotlight on you, because you've always been in all of my many conversations with Neil, you were always a presence.
No.
And sometimes when we were in crisis mode on certain things, you were also on the calls too.
Right.
If we remember some weird management times in the aughts, but I appreciate the chances we've had to speak in the most recent years.
Yeah.
I hope continually, as I always told Neil, if there's anything you ever need, never hesitate to reach out, because I appreciate you both and I appreciate everything you've done as well. So
thank you. That's very sweet.
I will ask one last thing as you're putting the website together, and it's probably already a thing there, but I think it's still an important thing for people. I hope you're preserving your tour diaries.
Oh, yes, yes.
And are going to make those readily readable.
I love my tour diaries. I every now and again I read through them, and I can remember clearly.
The most beautifully candid, accurately representational of the struggles of artists on the road.
Yeah.
Trying to stay alive.
I'm glad you appreciate them, because I love them. But when I first asked to write the book, I said, well, why don't you just make a book of my tour diaries? But they didn't appreciate them like I do.
No,
and I suppose I did them.
I'm sure anyone who didn't appreciate them, now having read the book, will appreciate what is great about those tour diaries and what it captures.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that there's nothing more, again, back to a beautiful metaphor of Neil going, no, we'll continue driving into the storms. Because we've got to get to the gig.
Yeah.
And let's see, if it gets bad, we'll stop, but let's try.
Yes. Yeah, that was frightening, terrifying. But anyway, we got there.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Okay, it's been a pleasure.
And I'm going to say goodbye to everyone who's listening, and then I will press stop on this, and then we can say goodbye. But
Okay.
So bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. Go pick up the book, Dip My Brain in Joy, A Life with Neil Innes by Yvonne Innes. Please go do it, and check out when the website launches, when the concert video, when the concert documentary, when the concert album, when anything that comes out, go check it. But you know what? There's all kinds of music from Neil available now, no matter where you look. Go seek it out. Go listen to a bit of Neil Innes. And thank you all for listening, and thank you, Yvonne, for being here.
It's been great.
Thank you for listening. If you want to support me, go to patreon.com/Ken Plume for a lot of great exclusive stuff that I hope you enjoy. Thanks again, and more to come.